One quick note, we're going to start out with some presentations today. We have given each of our speakers exactly 20 minutes. In fact, it's so intense, there's a 20-minute timer in the back of the room. That might not allow for questions and answers. If the presenter has time, they'll certainly open it up for questions and answers. But if you don't have time to ask questions and you got them on your mind, feel free to stay at 5 o'clock. I think most of our presenters are coming downstairs for a drink on Lonnie, so please feel free to hold those questions till then as well. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce somebody I'm a big fan of, Robyne Robinson. She is our guest MC today. It's a big upgrade for us here at Retail Rally to have a guest MC. No pressure, Robyne, but thank you so much for being here. Robyne is the principal consultant at 5x5 Public Art, a firm that brands strong business identities with communities through the arts. Robyne's also the creative mind behind Rock's jewelry designs, sold throughout the London and US and Greece. And she's also most recently former director of arts at MSP Airport, where she developed arts and culture programming at the airport. Her work with the airport has received praise from transportation writers and national media, including the New York Times. Robyne's well known as an Emmy-winning news broadcaster here in the Twin Cities and as the first African-American primetime anchor in Minnesota. Robyne has received numerous awards and honors, all well-deserved, including being named the 2010 candidate for Lieutenant Governor, a Hubert Humphrey Fellow at the University of Minnesota, and a critically praised curator and owner of Flatland Gallery. Please join me in welcoming Robyne Robinson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to take the long walk around here to the stage. I am really very excited to be here. It has a lot to do with feeling like inclusion. I started my own business about 10 years ago, designing jewelry, and it kind of took off quicker than what I thought it would. It led me into being an entrepreneur and learning more about being an entrepreneur, but I think it really came into fruition being at the airport. Working 6 years at MSP as art director brought me into contact with a lot of different people, contractors, a lot of architects, and I really felt my calling. I owned an art gallery, but prior to working at the airport, it really didn't gel into 5x5 until once I got there and really started thinking about what art means and what public art means to businesses and to corporations. So a little bit about 5x5. I'm going to click through here. Am I clicking through? Yeah. 5x5 is all about trying to make people understand that public art should be included in everything. What you're going to see here is an example of what we do. This is an unveiling that happened back in April. It's a South Minneapolis business that wanted to do artwork that put him in the middle of the community and really bond with some of the other businesses there and create his own identity. And he wanted to do it through art because he wanted to have that buy-in. So here's an example. Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if Bruce can get that sound to work for us.
Five,
Thank
four,
you.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, hey. There you go.
Holy cow.
Wow.
So you heard the exclamations of wow and holy cow, and of course you see the tears. But what this was an unveiling was really a community bonding. And the owner, who you see is wiping the tears away there, his name is Jared Brewington. He wanted to do something that really connected the community. And what I saw when I walked into his restaurant was this. A 4x30-foot wall that was completely blank, but had so many possibilities on what could be done with it. And he wanted to tie the fact that his family was a part of this community. And he wanted to tie in the fact that he was coming back to this community after being raised there for so many years and reinvesting. So I said to him, you've got to think creatively when you do this. You've got to really think how you can include the community. And the best way that you can include the community with 5x5 is to do 3 things. You have a mission, we have our concept, and we have our goals. Enhancing the company's local image, enriching the public's experience transforming and branding, and creating a sense of place in the community. And then the goals. We want to have a welcoming atmosphere, a safe place for people for sharing information, landmarks for navigation. If you're like me, you get lost quickly, but if I can tell you there's a McDonald's on the corner, I can find the location. Opportunity for creating shared experiences, connecting cultures and history, creating an environmental experience. And that doesn't mean it has to be green, but creating an environment that's very inclusive. Building emotional equity. Now, building emotional equity, I think, is the key in everything. You want people to feel like they have a buy-in on it. So what does that mean? That means when you talk about your church, your school, your bar, that's loyalty and that's buy-in, and that's what you're trying to accomplish. Educating people about the region and about the company, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit blind. Enhancing local and national and international reach, exposure and income for the artists. Why is that important? Because you can refeed the city and state infrastructure by paying for artists, and then opening opportunity for partnership in the arts and culture community. So again, Jared wanted to brand himself in the community, let people know that he grew up there, he was bringing his business back, and he wanted to do it in a creative way. And the only way I could think of was that beautiful 4 by 30-foot wall. Now, Funky Grits is the name of the business. It's on 38th and Chicago. It's a very active intersection. You can see it coming from 3 different ways. It's a neighborhood that has a great deal of history. On the corner, it's amazing that this business the structure has never changed. I happened to go into the Minnesota Historical Society and looked up the South Minneapolis neighborhood, and they had a picture of this corner. It was one of the first neighborhoods that allowed African Americans to have their own businesses there. And that's why Jared wanted to go back there. His family created a business there. He wanted his business there. He wanted to make sure that the neighborhood still had growth potential, that he wanted to make sure that the other neighbors felt the same way that he did, and they could build on what was there and build from the history of the neighborhood and have a really strong future. However, with all the beautiful neighborhood homes and the community feeling that they have, there was still a high number of incidences of crime on the corner. And again, you go on and you look for images, and the surprising part is that his business, right there on the corner of 38th in Chicago, it used to be a former beeper hangout and sell beepers there, which kind of added to the feeling of the neighborhood that it was, was a high crime, high traffic neighborhood. So he took that business and he took that space and he wanted to take it and make it something new. And so what we did was, we went back to our mission, our concept, and our goals. We wanted to make sure that we addressed all those things, that he could buy into the neighborhood by enhancing the company's image, having a space that everybody could connect to, that they felt safe in, that they felt that they were a part of, their culture and history was reflected, that he could use his branding to really become a name in the neighborhood, that like a touchstone name in the neighborhood, that when you said Funky Grits, everybody knew exactly where it was. They may not have been there, but they knew exactly where it was. And so what we did was we built a visioning board for him. And we took all the artists that we had in our database and introduced him to them to see which one he thought would best represent a community display on his wall in that restaurant. One that would draw people in, one that made people feel like it was a part of the history, that they were a part of that history, they were part of what was happening in the future. And so we talked to Jared, and he went through the artists, and he found the one artist that he liked the most was a young artist by the name of Reggie LaFleur. And Reggie is really starting to grow in the community. Many people are starting to know his name. He's done work for Graves Hospitality and Omaha Public School System. He's done work at some of the hotels in town. Many of the people are starting to get his name out there. And so we introduced him to Reggie, and he and Jared hit it off immediately. So what we did after that was call some of the neighborhood businesses and did kind of a walk and talk and meet and greet with Jared and with Reggie, and would ask people in the community, as well as the business owners, what did they come back to that community for? Why were they there? Did they grow up in that community? What did they feel the sense of neighborhood was like there? Did they feel that it was safe? Did they feel it was in transition? What were the reasons that they moved their business there? And we took photos of them and we started posting them on social media to give people an idea that something was coming with Funky Grits. what we started to do is post a lot of the responses that we got from people on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and it was really heartening. Some of the comments were, I grew up on 38th in Chicago. This is really great. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Or some of the people knew of Reggie's work. Reggie LaFleur is an amazing artist. This is going to be a great project. We'll be watching very closely. Or some of the folks were in the arts community and they said, hey, we just went to Funky Grits and we heard about the project. We can't wait to see what's going to come up there. So it was really starting to generate a lot of interest through social media. And we also use social media to do polls. We did SurveyMonkey and Instagram to try to get a feel of support for this mural in the community. After that, we started putting pictures up of Reggie's work so people knew that the work was coming. We'd show pictures of him starting to spray paint, the stencils that he was starting to use, and then we used quotes from him on Instagram talking about public art and what it meant to him as an artist to be included in some of these community projects. Did the artists feel that they were helping the neighborhood expand and helping people feel a connection to the neighborhood? What do they feel the role as an artist in the community? And we got great response from people, as much as 300, 400, 500 hits on one or two of the interviews. And so we started feeding them throughout the day and throughout the month that it took for this mural to go up. I'm going to ask you to hit the screen again. Once we got the mural up and people came for the unveiling, it was nothing but tears and the most amazing response that people could see the faces of people that meant something to them in their community. We talked to all the individual folks that are in the mural, from Andrea Jenkins, Angela Connolly, the Hennepin County Commissioner, former Mayor Sharon Sells Belton, Leslie Barlow, who is an up-and-coming artist that lives in the 38th and Chicago area in the Powderhorn community, as well as Victoria, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting Victoria's name, but she owns the Chicago Avenue Fire Arts Center and was one of the first people to move back into that neighborhood and really set up something that helped the residents that live there too. So, go back a little. Get there. Thank you. So the best part about this was that the mayor knew about this, but his aides said that they didn't really have any time to fit into his schedule. What we told him is that this mural represented his open streets policy and fit into what he was trying to do to bring people in the neighborhoods out and really celebrate what's in the community. Not only did he come, he stayed, he started crying, he started hugging everybody, and then he gave an hour speech. But it was a wonderful opportunity to get him to see this activity in motion. This is public art in motion. And what most people don't understand is that public art is not just putting a Snoopy statue up anymore. You can't do that anymore. It's not hanging artwork on a wall. We've got a lot of coffee houses in town that do that. What public art is really branching out into a community like this and having that strong neighborhood feel, that community emotional equity, and you're doing it through art, start to finish on this project. And then the buy-in is that you are giving money back to, and you're helping to refeed the infrastructure, as well as helping our local artists get some notoriety as well. So it was a wonderful opportunity to get the mayor there, and then he posed for pictures, and then it showed up in the Star Tribune. So everybody was happy. The business does his outreach. Jarrett now has so many community meetings and town halls at his place. It also spawned another mural for Reggie in the Bryant Neighborhood Association that created another mural for him to work on. And it got the opportunity for people to learn a little bit about the Powderhorn neighborhood, the Central neighborhood, the Phelps neighborhood, that are all tied under one umbrella. So that's just a small way of understanding how art can help retail and create a real emotional experience that keeps people to buy into what you're doing and become a regular patron. I have a couple of just real quick examples. If you need a stronger example, Kim Bartman, who's the queen of all restaurants, really learns that when she took the Bastille Day and moved it from downtown Minneapolis, downtown was kind of starting to dry up over in the warehouse district, I think at the time the New French had been running the Bastille Day celebration. And then when the New French Cafe went away, there was no celebration for a couple of years. Kim picked it up and moved it to Uptown. She included live acts, she included performing arts, she included music. And all that got her sponsors that wanted to buy in. Cities, I think, not Cities, I'm sorry, the Current now is a major sponsor of this. And it's put her on the map. And she also has a local artist each year do the illustration for the posters. The posters go on sale, and people can take those home. So she's really done a wonderful job of branching out from there. I know she's trying to do an electronic festival that she saw in Detroit and bring an electronic festival to the winter months and tie that into the Loppet and some of the other winter activities that go on. Another example, you may not even eat pizza, but if I say the name Luce, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And the Block Party has done another wonderful example of bringing in performing arts and celebrating artists, visual artists as well. Every year they have another artist make the poster. And really having a neighborhood block party. So again, it goes back to Mayor Fry's idea of open streets. You have people coming out, they feel safe in their space, they feel a sense of camaraderie and history. It's culture for the Twin Cities to have great block parties like this now. This is in its 7th or 8th year. And so don't think of public art as just something that goes on the wall. Today, public art can mean anything, anything. I was having a discussion right over here, and we were talking about if you want to do a fireworks festival, that's performance art. And if you get kids from the STEM partnership in this neighborhood school to fly drones and do some aerials, now you've got a representation of how this firework display goes on every year, and you get more and more people to come in and buy in. So you can think of it in many different ways. You can also be the provider of public art. You may not be the one who is putting on the performances, but you might be able to help by bringing in a tile designer who wants to put in a mosaic in one of the public schools and for their library. So now you've helped create public art in the public school in a library. It doesn't have to be so compartmentalized. Think creatively, think big. And then you work with companies like mine that can help expand that and really help you reach an audience and make them come back again and again and again and own their loyalty to you. I've got 5 minutes for questions. TV says there's no such thing as a bad question. Anybody? It's a good question. Anyone?
Robyne,
Yes.
how do you find the partners and the artists that you work with, as you referenced a database earlier in your conversation?
I am lucky enough to have 20 years of Channel 9 to be able to create a database like that. But really it means going and learning the arts organizations that there are in town. One of the best arts organizations that you can find is Forecast Public Art. They've got 40 years of databases and connections to artists all over the country. So if you don't have the time, but you have the resources, you can partner with organizations like mine, a small one or a large one like Forecast, and they have those databases and resources, and then they work with you to talk to you about your ideas, your goals, your wants. Any organization that is our consultancy will sit down with you and try to talk to you and your staff, because you want to do different angles on how your company is seen. You want it from the inside, you want it from the outside. You want to also have a committee of people that are inside your business and outside of your business to talk about what this will mean for the whole community. And you want their buy-in too. And also something I suggest is always having a public hearing, whether it's having people sit down in your business over a potluck or going out into the community and having a library rented so you can get a full spectrum of the community, take out some PR to let them know it's coming. But you want to know what the public thinks at all times and their inclusion. If they don't feel included, bad things can happen. The best example I can give you, if those of you can remember, 3 years ago, the Walker Arts Center put public art into the public art space at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. They did an internal process on what should have been a public process. They should have invited the community in. Many of the people that took part in that were not from the Twin Cities. They also hired an artist that was known for controversy and shocking people. So you have to have public buy-in. And what it means is really talking in the community about what you're going to do, asking them, is this cool with you? Getting their feedback, and if they're okay, everybody buys into the project and builds it. So reach out, and if you have more questions, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. Anyone else? 3 minutes. Yes?
Are there communities outside of the city you feel like are kind of leading or doing a good job with the same concept? And what you've kind of seen as I don't know how big or broad your consultancy goes, but any other areas that you can touch on that are doing a good job of this?
You know, people all over the country are doing this. This is not something that's new and novel. I learned that when I was at the airport. Just like there are 40 airports across North America that are all putting art into airports, there are hundreds and hundreds of companies across the country that are doing this. I would say any city that works really well with its art community does this well, and I'd say Phoenix has some of the best public art I've seen that are tied into some of their local businesses. They have a community art walk, very similar to the San Francisco Community Art Walk. They have alleys that are sponsored by businesses where you can go for a mile or so of just garages and building faces that have done, have murals all by local artists. And same thing in Phoenix. Phoenix does the same thing. They also have huge public art projects that are tied into the environment. For example, a lot of local businesses supported new structures that are out in public areas in Phoenix that are designed to give shade for people because there's no shade anywhere in Phoenix and it's hot. So they're designed right along the riverfronts to give shade and to utilize the water power that is there because some of them have showers, kind of like the dandelion that we used to have in Loring Park that was the fountain. Anyone else? Okay, great. Let's start the show.